Hey, so today I have the pleasure of interviewing Paula Nespel. Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. Nuspl,
Okay,
yes.
Nespel. And she is an interior designer in Oregon, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with her for a little bit. And we're going to talk about, how things go in midlife. In her situation, she's moving through a divorce and she's reestablishing her interior design business, and she's agreed to talk with us a little bit about what that's been like. So Paula, can you tell me a little bit of a background on what's been happening the last year or so?
Um, well, actually, the last two. So my husband and I just recently finalized our divorce. And fortunately, it was, quote, the friendly divorce. We went
Mhm.
through a collaborative process. And even though we did that, and like I said, we've come out the other side of co-parenting, still being close, being friends, still having a connection. It still was a very, very challenging and difficult process. Obviously, it wasn't as uh, litigious, I guess is the right word. If
Mhm.
you go through the standard process of getting a divorce, there wasn't all of that consternation, but it was still very much um, a very, very challenging, painful experience in many, many ways.
I'm
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, just being able to uncouple things and to separate and to deal with the feelings involved in that, no matter how amicable it may be, it's still a difficult thing.
Yeah, it's difficult to let go of we were married for 23 years, together for 25. So yeah, it was difficult. It was very difficult.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you determined was that you wanted to put more renewed effort into your interior design business. As you were thinking about what comes next for you, what are some of the stages that you went through?
Well, when we had gotten married, I started my design business in 1998. And we had made an agreement that I would work. Of course, he works, and I would work until we decided to start a family. And then we agreed at that point that I would pause my career
Mhm.
to be, pretty much a full-time mom. And of course, being, an independent decorator or designer, you have the opportunity to take clients whenever it comes about. But I wasn't actively looking for clients.
Mhm.
And so did that and had kids. And then when I started to jump back into the pool for that, it was right when the recession hit,
Mhm.
and all of the people were like, real estate was crashing and everything. So I had to keep pausing.
Mhm.
But I finally moved forward. And when I decided to renew my business, I decided I wanted to focus on helping women in midlife who are going through these transitions, of their children are older and have moved out, have moved on, gone to school. Maybe their spouse has passed. Maybe they have gotten a divorce like I have. Um, Maybe they've decided that they want to have that career that they've always wanted to have and let go of the 9 to 5 or the job that they took because they felt they needed to and didn't necessarily want.
Mhm.
And so I want to work with those women, to help them restore and really truly find who they are, through their spaces. And it's kind of a healing process, really. I know for myself in going through this divorce, I feel like I've lived in a house that in a life that once was that isn't any longer. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of women do feel that too, because very often women end up getting the home, when they go through a divorce, and then they're looking around and, like I said, they see all the memories, all the everything of a life together with someone else.
Yeah.
And so in reclaiming their life and they can do that through reclaiming their space. And I help
Mhm.
them to really get clear on what that looks like for them so that they can live their best life moving forward.
And so it sounds like one of the important things that you help them do is come to grips with the fact that there's a change and that they're better served by blessing and releasing, so to speak, those old things around them so that they're not constantly reminded of that life that used to be, and they can actually create a new life for themselves that reflects where they want to go now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said it perfectly. Bless and release the things that thank you for serving me. You've done your job. I thank you. And now I'm going to let you go. And of course I do that within people's own parameters, because it's very hard to let go of things that maybe still hurt. I tell people there's things you're going to look at that still hurt, but you're not ready yet to let go of. And that's okay too. Like, we can figure that piece out. But also allowing the things that are going to help launch you to the next chapter in your story, because your home tells a story, right? Everything that you're surrounded by tells the story of you. And you want to honor that, but you also want to tell the story of, hey, this is where I'm going now.
So is this something that you had to experience for yourself too, in terms of learning how to bless and release and to move forward?
Oh, yes. In my own house, absolutely. And I'm still going through that process because, it takes 25 years of gathering things,
Right.
So,
You don't just get rid of it in a minute.
exactly. But it has been very opening and freeing to be thankful for all those memories and all those things. And then bringing in or just sitting with the things that I currently have and being thankful for that abundance. So yeah, and it's interesting too, because I will say that and I'm sure women experience this in midlife too, especially with menopause and just teenage children, if you have them, and all of it. One day you feel like, yes, I get to do this, and this is amazing, and woo, I have all this freedom. And then the next day you're like, oh my God, I have to do all this, and this is so amazing, and I'm freaking out.
It's true.
And it's within the same day, so yeah, it can be very roller coastery, very bipolar, you're just kind of like this.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. You just take 1 minute, one moment, and be present. So
I think that's an important thing to talk about, because we're taught that, well, we're not taught, but society says, media says, oh, your life is happy and everything's wonderful, and it's just like one long big happy party. But in truth, it's not like that, right? It's full of ups and downs. And I think for women to realize that that's normal, that really is the norm, not this craziness that we see in the media and on TV, and that it's okay not to give up, not to turn away from whatever plan or focus that you have, but to just keep going. That, what is it they say on remember Gone with the Wind? She says, tomorrow is another day.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it is, right? Tomorrow is another day. And like you said, from 1 minute to the next, virtually, you can feel totally different about what's going on. And so, yeah, for women to keep moving forward and not give up. And I think that's, it sounds like that's the kind of encouragement that you give your own clients as they're moving through these things. And that's certainly the kind of thing that I speak with my clients about, that just because you run into a little bump in the road, a little obstacle, a roadblock, it doesn't mean that you're supposed to give up. It's just there to help strengthen you and to teach you something. And so you accept it. And instead of trying to push it away, that you open your arms and you accept it and say, okay, what is it that's here for me that I need to learn? And how is this going to make me stronger as I move forward?
And I know that's a hard pill sometimes to swallow, where you say, yes, universe, I know that you're poking at me because there's something here that I need. But it really is true. And sometimes just sitting in that uncomfortableness. And like you said, instead of seeing it as a problem or a mistake, like you've made a mistake, that you say, okay, like you said, what is the lesson here? What is the information that I meant to receive from this?
Right.
see what that's about, like shifting your perspective around that this is just information that is being put in front of me for a reason. So what is my takeaway from that? And how can I make it be a positive instead of sitting and stewing in that negativity, or that, oh, why does this have to be so hard? And why me?
Right.
It's okay. What's the silver I hate this term, but what's the silver lining here? Like what do I find? And I know that and I hate to use those buzzwords because then people think, oh yeah, okay, it's supposed to be silver, whatever. They're like, no, but really it is really meant for you to, you're meant to experience something so that you have more learning that you're learning, because that's what we're all here for, right? Is to become more enlightened and learn. So, yeah.
I think when you as you work through those kinds of things, you learn so much about how, yes, this is hard, but I can do this. I can get through to the other side. There is an other side to this. I can move that way. But if I don't deal with it, then it just sticks around and it haunts me. It shows up at other times and it makes me feel bad because I haven't dealt with it and it's still bothering me. Whereas if you can find reach down inside of you and find the strength to just sit through it and let it kind of wash over you and accept it, then it's kind of like having a good cry, right? You feel better after it's over.
And
Right?
like you kind of touched on too, it's a yes and.
Yeah.
I can feel this pain and still move forward.
Yes.
I can still, it's not a either or, it's a yes and.
Yes.
When you do that, when you open that part up, the yes, then you still welcome all those possibilities that can come forth. If it's an either or, it's like this box or that box, and that's all my options.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, the first time you do it, it's really hard. And you think, oh, they're crazy. There's no good to be coming out of this, But if you can just hang in there, move through it, then the second time something like that comes up, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this kind of sucks, but I know that it'll help me if I get through it. So each time you go through it, it gets easier and easier. I mean, it's never a piece of cake. It's always painful, but you understand the value of it and you're willing to experience it so that you can move forward into that next place. And it really develops your sense of resiliency. And that's a very important life skill, to be able to, bump into that roadblock, pick yourself up and dust yourself off and say, okay, I got that. So let's go on to the next thing.
Well, and what's interesting, and you just touched on it again too, is that I see that as a spiral. So when you start at the bottom of the spiral and you bump up against something and you learn some information, and then you go around, and then when that comes back again, you're at a different part of the spiral. You're always ascending up, right? So you're coming back to that bump again, but now you have a different perspective because you've gained the knowledge from the last time you hit that bump. And you go, like you just said, oh, you know what? I remember when this came up before, but now I have that added information. So I'm looking down at that going, okay. And then it's going to keep coming up for you in different ways. It's going to manifest. But again, it's just the universe saying, tapping you on the shoulder and saying, remember that thing again? I'm going to give you a little test and see if you remember what we talked about last time.
You really get that? Yeah.
Like in the previous episode, this is what we did.
Yeah, right.
So I think, and it's interesting because I think we all have those life themes that we're always meant to work through.
Yeah.
And I think when you just recognize that and you say, oh, I see you. I remember. Okay, I remember what we did last time that didn't work. So let's try this. Or last time, I figured out that if I do this, it's going to be better. So you're absolutely right. Like you just have to anticipate the bumps,
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And I think over time, you develop a little more lighthearted approach to it.
Absolutely.
At the beginning, it's so serious and you're so determined and you're just trying to get through it. But after a while, it's like you said, you go, oh yeah, I recognize that. Oh, okay. And, you kind of get to be friends with the process and you see that it's really for your benefit. And you can have a laugh about it, really, because, what is life but enjoying it and moving forward, right? If we make it so hard for ourselves and we make it like such a downer, then it's no fun.
Absolutely. I totally
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
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 Well, it's fun. And so those are lessons that I can, I can tell from our conversation that have really stuck with you in terms of your growth and, your moving forward. So when you think about what advice or what encouragement you would give to other women in similar situations, what kind of things come to mind besides what we've already spoken of?
Um, be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing, especially coming out of divorce.
Mhm.
Um, there's always that woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't.
Yeah.
What could I have done? What should I have done? All those words that really don't ever have a resolution and are living in the past. Obviously you can't go back.
Yeah.
But what you can do is move forward every day. And just like I said, being gentle with yourself of saying, hey, I did the best at the time
Mhm.
for what I knew.
Mhm.
And now I know what I know.
Mhm.
And moving forward, like, Scarlett O'Hara said, it's a new day.
Yeah.
So every minute you get the choice to make a different decision. And that's the thing, is that you cannot control what other people do, how they behave, respond, whatever. All of that is out of your control. The only control you have is
Mhm.
over yourself and how you choose to respond. And so if you take a moment to think, to process through and say, okay, I could sit here and beat myself up for the fact that my marriage fell apart, whatever, fill in the blank of whatever's going on for you. Or you can say, okay, this is where I'm at, and I'm going to take this information and I'm going to move forward and do better.
Yeah.
And so that is, I think, the biggest thing. And just taking each day as it comes. Like I said, some days I feel on top of the world and like I have all these opportunities and everything's amazing. And then some days I feel like, you know what, I just want to curl up in a ball and stay in bed and not deal with anything.
Mhm.
Uh, and a lot of women, like I said, in midlife, like right now, are going through perimenopause or menopause.
Mhm.
They're going gray. Uh,
Mhm.
they might, like I said, they might have teenagers, which is its own ball of wax.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with hormones on both ends.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, if you've lost a spouse, then there's questions around your validity as a woman now, your sexuality. I mean, so many different
Mhm.
things come up. And
Mhm.
when you're going through midlife anyway, it is kind of like a second adolescence. It's like a new awakening. And
Yeah.
so you're really trying to figure out, like, who the hell am I now? And
Yeah.
what do I do now? Especially when kids leave. Women are like, even if they do stay married, they're like, my kids aren't here. Who am I? What do I want to do? Where do I want to go? I don't even know who I am. And they kind of have that like existential crisis of like, oh my God, I'm not a full-time mom anymore. I have to figure out what I want from my life now.
Exactly.
It can be very challenging and you can freak out. And what I'm saying is just journal, 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 journal,
Yeah.
and meditate and self-care, take care of you. And that doesn't mean go into the spa. Self-care means really listening to yourself and taking the time you need for
Mhm.
you in whatever way that manifests for you.
Yes.
For me, I want to help women, with their spaces and saying you need to create sacred space for yourself. You need to create space that resonates for you and inspires you to want to live your best life moving forward and to heal,
Yeah.
right? And it's going to be different for each woman. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say, take one day at a time and bless yourself with grace, give yourself grace.
Yeah. I think you're so right. We are so hard on ourselves.
Ugh.
Yeah. Where did that come from? I've got a million ideas about where that comes from, but the point is we need to give it up because when you think about the voice in your head and how it yammers at you, it says things to you that you would never say to your best friend or anybody else. And you
Right.
think about it, you think, well, then why do I say that to myself? Why do I do that to myself? And so you're exactly right that being kind to yourself and accepting that today I don't feel up to par, so I'm going to step back, renew my energy, and it's okay. It doesn't
Right.
mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm lazy. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad mom or whatever that is. It just means I need this little bit of time for myself, and I'm going to give myself permission to have it.
Right. That's the other thing, is that we shame ourselves for taking care of ourselves, like that we're somehow, like you said, lazy or being selfish because we want to put ourselves first for a moment, you
Yes,
know,
yes,
and not even put ourselves first, just put ourselves in the equation at all.
exactly. Just getting on the priority list would be a big improvement
Right. Yeah.
because we don't put ourselves there. We put ourselves, oh, who knows, back behind the trash in the corner sometimes we feel, you know?
Well, and you can't, if you don't give yourself some attention, whatever that looks like for you,
Hmm.
like they always say, put your oxygen mask on before you put the oxygen mask on the child next to you.
Right.
If you're operating at below whatever, then you're not able to give 100% or give what you want to be
Hmm.
giving to those other people. You're not giving the best of yourself. So wouldn't it make sense then to make sure that your cup is runneth over so
That's
that you
right.
can fill up the other cups? If you're always operating from a place of scarcity, you're going to burn out, and you're not going to be good for yourself, or most importantly for yourself, but you're not going to be good for anybody either.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's an important lesson for us to learn. And it's one of those things we have to keep reminding ourselves because we're constantly bombarded by images in the media and on television about how the woman gives, and that's your job to stand behind your man, to support your children, or do all of those things. And it's like, well, excuse me, wait a minute, where do I get something that I need in this equation? I need
and
a,
and I'm sure you've probably seen the cartoon that a woman drew about the mental load, about just how women bear the mental load of the family. If you haven't, I'll send it to you.
oh
But
yeah, I would like that.
it's yeah, we carry the weight of everything, really.
Hmm.
And we do that and still do all the things at the same time. You know what I mean? We carry the mental load, but we still do all the other physical things that we need to do as well. And we really are super people. I don't know how we manage it.
I know the world would fall apart if women weren't here to hold it together. We are the glue that holds the world together. That's the truth.
Amen, sister. I totally agree.
Oh gosh. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I appreciate you sharing with me your views and what's been happening in your life. And I certainly agree with all the things you've said with respect to women being able to have a home environment that supports them and nourishes them, and knowing that it's okay. That um, that if you don't have that, then you don't have a full cup to work with, and so you're not able to give fully of yourself. So thank you very much for our conversation today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was wonderful to talk with you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my Glorious Second Act Workbook and Planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to develop a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below. So click the link, download your planner, and get started taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Joanne Kobike, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. As a thank you for being here, I'd like to offer you my glorious second act workbook and planner. It's a great tool to help you gain clarity on what it is you want next in your life and to develop a plan to get you there. It's a totally free gift. The link is down below, so click the link, download your planner, and get started, taking action and creating a new and exciting second half to your life. I'm Joanne Kobike, your midlife coach. Stop by again for another episode of Modern Midlife. See you next time.